Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics. So, why was Tommy Robinson's first act on being found not guilty in court to taunt Nigel Farage? Farage, of course, has strategic reasons for wanting to keep a distance from Tommy Robinson in his activities, but they are two cheeks of the same arse. But for whatever reason, Robinson is not interested in being strategic here, or at least apparently. Is this a sign that he intends to cause Farage damage at the next election for being an outsider to his parliamentary project? And if Robinson does decide he wants to teach Farage a lesson, how could he achieve it? Which weaknesses in Reform UK could he poke at? But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So for those who don't know, Tommy Robinson was in court again, but on this occasion found not guilty. Now, I'll go over a couple of the circumstances in a moment, but I want to first point something out. Robinson keeps claiming that he only ends up in prison because the establishment are making him a political prisoner. So how come he was found not guilty on this occasion then? In countries that have genuine political prisoners, there's no some you win, some you lose about it. The state wins every time. Putin doesn't need two bites of the cherry to stick a political opponent in prison. Once he orders it, it happens. So even though Robinson is still claiming to be politically targeted, his acquittal somewhat proves otherwise. And just to remind people why he was charged in the first place, he was trying to take a bag full of cash out of the country. This was considered suspicious by the police. Now, I won't go over all of the details because I already did a video on that at the time, and I want to focus on this schism with Farage for this video. But essentially, the police wanted Robinson to unlock his phone for them because they wanted to know what he might have been doing with all that cash going across international lines on counter-terrorism grounds. He refused, quite rudely according to reports, so he was charged. The judge acquitted him, thus also proving that even someone who was openly organising riots on Twitter last year is allowed this level of privacy with their own phone. So another refutation of Robinson's claims to being targeted because of his political beliefs. The shit he's getting away with is extraordinary and wouldn't be feasible if freedom of speech were not fairly strong in law. There's no way Robinson would have had this outcome were he in America and accused of activities counter to the interests of the MAGA movement. But anyway, Nigel Farage. So Tommy Robinson gets acquitted. Pretty much the first thing he seems to do is post a tweet as a challenge to Farage with a video clip. Come to the clip in a moment. But the tweet says, there's some grammatical nonsense here. It doesn't matter. It's a tweet. We will please now correct this, Nigel Farage. Now that I've been found not guilty, can you now accept that I was targeted for my political beliefs like the judge found? You should have spoken up, but didn't. Instead, you lied. Why? So, not having seen the clip before Robinson tweeted, I didn't really know what was in it. I imagined it must have been Nigel Farage tearing Robinson down. A bit like last summer, where the schism seemed to begin, where he blamed Tommy Robinson for the riots. But no, in the clip, Farage says two things. He says that Robinson is right about a lot of things, but that he isn't for him. It's like, oh, he's right about a lot of things, but just, he's not for me.
No, Tommy Robinson's been right about many things. He's just not the company that I choose to keep. And even after that, we got, Robinson's been arrested using terrorism laws, isn't there? And then we discover, no, actually, he wasn't arrested in London. He was arrested at the port of Dover, and it's something to do with a passport issue. And, listen, he has had some things very right over the years. It's just, he's not for me.
That's it. He doesn't even, that's the whole clip, by the way. He doesn't even say Robinson wasn't targeted for his political beliefs. He just says, seems to be a bit of consistency, Tommy, mate, between what you said you were arrested for and what the police arrested you for, which is true. In fact, that clip is a complete nothing burger. And you think, why would Robinson have been so triggered by that clip that pretty much his first thought on being acquitted was that he wanted to throw shade on Farage? After all, Farage intends to do a lot of what Tommy Robinson is campaigning for in government. Why trip him up? Is it possible that what we have here is something I see all too often on the left, attempts to sabotage your own political objectives because egos get butthurt by the methods? Or is it that Robinson, the arch grifter, is being strategic? He doesn't want Farage to have the power to implement their common causes. After all, when a grifter makes money exploiting a perceived problem, and then that problem seems to be dealt with in the ways they've argued for as well, isn't there a risk the grift ends? Is Robinson actually being strategic with his opposition to Farage? Is a Reform UK government basically Tommy Robinson's worst nightmare? But for whatever reason, if Robinson is keen to cause Farage serious damage as a rebuke for not being more openly aligned with him, then what are his options? What are the weaknesses in Farage's operation that Robinson could exploit if he wanted to? Well, there are a couple. I mean, let's consider Reform UK supporters being formed of two main blocks. The first are what you'd call the core support. So this is mostly the people who voted from the last election. These people believe all the stuff on Brexit, immigration, multiculturalism and Islam, right? The whole caboodle. Then there's the rest who flocked to Reform UK since the election after being unconvinced that Labour are fixing the problems left by the Tories. They have varying views on immigration, Brexit and so on, but do perhaps believe that both of the two main parties in the current hegemony are not going to solve their problems, or they're seeing no evidence of it. So they give the new third option a punt. These two blocks of maybe roughly equal size are very different. The latter group are more moderate. They don't want the country torn down. They don't want their neighbours ripped out of their beds and thrown into concentration camps. They don't want to see religious intolerance in the UK. But they do want the cost of living to be fixed. So in order to attract this second group, Farage has to do a few things. Like first, these voters did not approve of the riots last year. And Robinson was a very vocal supporter of them. Notice how Farage adopted radio silence for a good long time when they hit. So Farage has to publicly distance himself from the public disorder that emanates from Robinson and his supporters, even though he knows his own core support is very much on Robinson's side. His strategic thinking is that the moderate support is more fickle. He's got to work for their votes. Those votes are not guaranteed. But the core supports, they've got basically no other pragmatic options. They either vote for Reform UK or they don't get Reform UK, right? So he needs to take their votes for granted. Tommy Robinson could poke at that, saying that Farage wouldn't really do anything in government, that he'd go native, that his attacks on Robinson prove it. He's not committed to the cause. Second bone of contention is that Farage is filling up Reform UK with ex-Tories at pace. This creates a couple of problems for Reform UK if it becomes widely pointed out. The first is that Reform UK appeal to a lot of people who would not vote Conservative, and they hate what Thatcher did to their towns in the 80s. Saying how great Thatcherism was and filling his party full of people who stood as Conservatives at like the last election, that's not a great look. If people were to point that out more widely, it's not a great look. Second is that it crowds out the sort of candidates more aligned with the core support. I mean, imagine what they're looking like. These are the people who've supported Nigel Farage for like over 10 years. They've been in UKIP and all the rest of it. They want to be a Reform UK candidate. Suddenly they're told their candidate's actually going to be an ex-Tory. What does that look like? Makes it easy to suggest that Nigel Farage's government would just be another Tory government in sheep's clothing. So if Robinson did want to harry Farage's Reform UK, whether because he's just butthurt by the slight or because he's strategically protecting his grift, he does have wounds to poke at. Farage is trying to meld together two different types of voter, which don't necessarily sit easily side by side. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.